Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of June 9th, 2025. Please be advised a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the back of the chambers by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a short moment of silent meditation. Please remain standing if you are able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located in the lobby. The council shall require any member of the public addressing the council to identify themselves, the name of any organization represented by such person, and their address, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. Each speaker should state whether they are speaking in favor or in opposition to an item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item shall come forward after the clerk reads the item and the applicant has presented. After public comments, the applicant may make one short rebuttal. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date, nor planned for a future agenda. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. Will the clerk please call the first item of business?
Our first item of business today for our City Council meeting of Monday, June 9th, 2025 is our Mayor's Award of Excellence.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairperson Carlson. Good afternoon, members of the council. I'm very pleased to be back before you again, this time to present the Mayor's Award of Excellence for February of 2025. We are going to give this award today to James Munyon, who is the wastewater treatment plant operator for the Lincoln Transportation and Utilities Department. And LTU Facilities Operations Coordinator Tyler Crothers nominated James in the category of Education and Lifelong Learning for his outstanding commitment to the growth and success of his colleagues. James has been a dedicated and invaluable member of the LTU team for the past 19 years. And for much of that time, he has taken upon himself to train every newly hired operator, no matter what shift they serve on. And James has developed customized training plans that are tailored to individuals' needs, which lays a really strong foundation for their success. So James works really closely with every new hire, often coming in early or staying late to provide extra guidance and support. And thanks to his hands-on mentoring, many operators have successfully passed the rigorous NDEE Class 4 operator license exam, a significant accomplishment in the field and a direct reflection of James's commitment to his teammates. Beyond his hands-on training, James has taken the initiative to develop comprehensive training materials that he generously shares with the entire team. And these resources have become really essential tools for current and future staff, fostering a culture of excellence and lifelong learning in the LTU wastewater division. In his nomination letter, Crothers wrote, quote, James exemplifies what it means to be a great team member. His willingness to go above and beyond, coupled with his passion for education and mentorship, has made a lasting impact on both his colleagues and the quality of our operations, unquote. Our city is cared for by so many people like James, whose faces you might not otherwise see. James, thank you so much for showing up, suiting up, and lifting up our community. You deserve this spotlight, and I'm very proud to present you with this Mayor's Award of Excellence. Director Elliott, did you want to share some thoughts?
Thank you, Mayor. No, it is an honor to be here celebrating James with Mayor and all of you today. James, as Tyler said, exemplifies teamwork. And I think one of the greatest things is we know our community is in good hands with the future because of James's work, ensuring that succession planning, ensuring that this knowledge is passed on. And James is one in a million, and we are so glad that he is part of our team. So a huge thank you and congratulations to James. So thank you.
James, would you like to come up and say a few words and maybe introduce any family members who are here to support you today?
Greetings, Council. This is a tremendous honor. Thank you.
We're so lucky to have families that support our teammates, and I know that James's wife Judy is here. Do you want to wave? Thank you, and mother and in-law. So thank you for your support. And with that, I don't know if you have any comments, but we'll be exiting soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Munyon.
Yes.
Go
ahead.
It's really a testament to the years of service that you have done, and that you're looking out for the future of your colleagues and for the city of Lincoln. And it's not just I recognize it's not just a one-time event. This is something that you've been passionate about and shared with your colleagues for years. Thank you for that dedication.
I would just like to echo Councilwoman Washington in the thank you, James, for the work and dedication you've given to the city for the last 19 years. It's impressive. We thank you very much for it. It was so heartwarming to see you get a little choked up, but you know, we are in awe of you and the work that you do, and so appreciate it very, very much. So thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Let's
We'll
give him one more round.
Yeah. One more. Give a few seconds here. Let the room clear a little.
You.
Madam Clerk, please move us forward.
Next on our agenda would be our consent agenda, sections 1, 2, and sections 3.
All right, and moving forward. What's that? Oh, is there any comment on the consent agenda? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any staff here to present?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here to introduce Andrew Dominguez Farias to you. The mayor is nominating Andrew to serve on the Commission on Women and Gender. The commission serves in advisory capacity to the mayor and city council and are charged with the responsibility to provide advice and recommendations with regard to policy proposals and research to promote gender equity and to address and alleviate racial, cultural, health, social, economic, legal, and other barriers affecting women, transgender, and non-binary community members in the city of Lincoln. Andrew has been very engaged in our community over the last several years. This includes as a community organizer for Nebraska Appleseed, Center for Law and the Public Interest. In this role, he worked to address barriers to accessing education and employment opportunities for unhoused youth and facilitated listening sessions for individuals who have had experience with the eviction court process, to name a few. Currently, Andrew serves as a law clerk for the ACLU Nebraska and is on the board of directors for Out Nebraska. Additionally, Andrew is the board president of Star City Pride Events. Andrew is originally from Houston, Texas, but has quickly made Lincoln his home and is serving our community well. He will only continue to make great impact to the city of Lincoln, and we are grateful to have his experience and perspective to join the commission. Thank you.
Andrew, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Yes, thank you all so much. Like when Lynn mentioned, my name is Andrew Dominguez Farias. I use he, him as pronouns, and I also reside at 1900 K Street here in Lincoln. I really owe it to the wonderful community that I've been able to build in Lincoln. That includes newfound family and friends who've really helped me feel welcome here. And that's also something I would really love to carry forward in terms of serving on the Mayor's Commission on Women and Gender. I'm interested in serving on this commission because I would love the opportunity to provide insightful recommendations and support based on my combined experience in LGBTQ advocacy, policy, and community organizing. And this would ultimately contribute to supporting the commission's purpose of increasing engagement with impacted community members, as well as it relates to data collection and research within our communities too. And overall, I would be incredibly thoughtful and humbled to be impacting or affecting policies in any which way to improve the lives of women as well as transgender and non-conforming people in our city. And thank you to the mayor for my nomination, to Lynn for the support through this process, and thank you all for your consideration. I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions from council? Go ahead, Tom.
No questions, but Andrew, thank you for giving your time to the city of Lincoln. We really appreciate it. There would be a very small handful of people that would be more experienced and qualified to take on this role. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. I just want to echo my colleagues' thanks for stepping up to serve Lincoln. I think you're one of the emerging leaders of this community, and I feel really fortunate that we have you and your willingness to serve. And I want to congratulate you on finishing your first year of law school, which is no easy feat. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you, Councilman.
Questions or comments?
I can go on the record as a ditto. Thank you, Chair.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other staff reports? Please come up.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kay Wenzel, and we have two members who are going to be we're asking for appointment by the City Council. Mr. Woods is on his way down. Might we be able to go a couple people later in the agenda on the reports of city officers? Or would you like to proceed before
we can
he
go ahead
comes?
and proceed at this time,
Okay.
I think, too.
Okay.
And, yeah.
That is just fine. As I said before, Kay Wenzel, I'm the Assistant Director at Aging Partners. We're at 600 South 70th. And I'm here today with Jackie Greenfield. And pretty soon we will have Nate Woods with us. We ask for you to appoint them to the Aging Partners Advisory Council, which is our area-wide council that provides input and advice and information and expertise to us for our 8-county area. Particularly in the subject of services and policies for our staff and programs. Ms. Greenfield is a lifelong Lincoln resident. She's a retired registered nurse and has volunteered in several capacities with hospice organizations, Clinic with a Heart, and also has been a 28-year volunteer at the International Quilt Museum. Wow. Something fun and interesting. Yes. Yes. So her healthcare background will be of huge benefit to us with our health services and fitness programming. And Mr. Woods is an Army veteran. He is the past assistant director at the Malone Center and has also served at Cedars Youth Services and the National ABLE program. National ABLE is particularly of interest and value to us because we do serve some clients who are participants in National ABLE, which is helping older adults receive training and employment assistance to move into paid employment. So we look forward to tapping into Jackie and Nate's expertise and advice as we move forward with Aging Partners. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions at all, Council? Jackie, would you like to say a few words at all? Or?
Well,
I've been in Lincoln forever, but I also have been going to Aging Partners when it was started out on O Street, and used to pick up my mom in the morning, and we'd exercise and listen to the band and have lunch. And I've taken a lot of classes, so I really appreciated that, and so it will be nice to be able to give back and be on the council. So.
Great,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Not this time.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other staff reports on our consent agenda?
Back again. Lynn Quenzer, Ombudsman for the city. Hello again. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Roli Saraf. The mayor is nominating Dr. Saraf to the Mayor's Multicultural Advisory Committee. This committee serves in an advisory capacity to the mayor and city council. The mission of this committee is to identify issues and recommend policies and strategies that enhance and support the full and equal partnership of people of diverse racial, cultural, economic, gender, and disabled groups in city government and Lincoln Community Affairs. Dr. Saraf received her bachelor's, master's, and doctorate in India and began her career as a research fellow, tutor, and lectured undergraduate in the Department of Zoology at the University of Jaipur. She then moved to New York, where she served in a variety of university roles, including professor and acting department head. The city of Lincoln was then lucky enough to have her move here to our great community, where she has continued in higher education as an instructor at SCC, Kaplan, and several other universities. Dr. Saraf is currently the team captain for the Indian community at Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach. As team captain, she reaches out to her community members for hosting and serving meals, preferably an Indian meal. We are incredibly lucky to have Dr. Saraf in our community and for her willingness to serve on the MAC. Thank you.
Dr. Saraf, would you like to come up and say a few words? Introduce yourself. Oh.
Thank you for the kind words, and thank you, Council. I'm Roli Saraf, and yes, originally from India, and so happy to be a Lincoln resident for almost 21 years now, so this is home for me. India is a diverse nation, and we lived in New York for 10 years and then in Virginia for almost 6.5 years. When we came here, we thought we were probably going to stay here for just a little bit and probably move on, but here we are. The diversity here and the people, they are just wonderful. And I'm so touched and honored, thanks to the council, thanks to the mayor and all of you, that I have this opportunity to serve in this manner.
Thank you.
I will do my best to do justice to this committee and to the role that I am here for. And I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Dr. Saraf? No? All right. Thank you for willingness. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dr. Sharif, I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh.
I too came to Lincoln and thought I might not stay forever, and I have. And so thank you for putting your roots down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Any other staff reports on consent agenda items? Are there any members from the public that would like to comment on any items on the consent agenda?
My name's Anastasia Finner, 555 South 10th Street. I'm just teasing, I'm waving my address. I'm here to discuss 1F, report of city treasurer of city cash on hand at the close of business April 30th, 2025. So, a couple of things. One, that's a big number. We now have over $700 million cash on hand. That's a lot of cash. Too bad y'all don't just talk about this without me having to come show it. That's kind of irritating and ableist and classist, not giving access to the public information that the public should have. Anywho, this is also a record of admission of guilt. So right here you see we have U.S. Bank Nebraska and Wells Fargo Bank, right? Wells Fargo Bank credit account with a not insignificant amount of money in it. And then if we also look down here, yeah, that's, clerk, stamp, the city of Lincoln. This is the city of Lincoln, right? Advertising this, putting this out. So it's like PDF readable, printable, city of Lincoln, admitting that, of course, they're going to continue to hold our public dollars and institutions that we know are genocidal, right? That we know are, complicit in the murder of the people of Gaza. This is the city unabashedly showing and admitting that, yes, we do in fact, and will continue to, and have not said anything publicly, have not emailed people privately, have not made any effort to ensure that we are these great people. Because instead, we're just saying time and time again that it is absolutely fine for these banks to hold our money, that we know these banks contribute to the Israeli military, which has been, massacring the people of Gaza since October of 2023, but also since, 1948. This is how the city quietly allows genocide to go on. We are keeping our public dollars in horrible places on purpose. On purpose. There are other places where that money could be held. And instead, we have the city fully admitting with their own website, with their own stamp of approval, that like, yes, in fact, we are, giving this money to these killers, doing it on purpose, boldly, at the top of the list too. So, just need to have people understand that casually, without you feeling it, we're killers. And this is just proof of us being those killers.
All right. Are there any other members from the public who would like to comment on anything on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we can go ahead and move forward.
We can now vote on these items. Item 1A is appointing Andrew Dominguez Farias to the Commission on Women and Gender for a partial term to expire November 23rd, 2027, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Beckius. Go ahead and call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1B is appointing Jackie Greenfield and Nate Woods to the Aging Partners Area-Wide Advisory Council for terms to expire June 30th, 2028, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Washington. Go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1C is appointing Dr. Roli Saraf to the Mayor's Multicultural Advisory Committee for a partial term to expire September 18th, 2027, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Washington. Go ahead and call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden, Washington,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1D is correcting the legal description of use permit 17007A by repealing and replacing resolution number A95057 as previously adopted, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius, go ahead and call the roll.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1E is approving the distribution of funds representing interest earnings for short-term investments of idle funds during the month ended April 30th, 2025, introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Weber. Go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Items 2A through 2D were introduced by Schob.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Weber. Go ahead and call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. That concludes our consent. We'll move on to section 4, public hearing liquor resolutions. I'll call items 4A and 4B together. Application of Maverick Inc., doing business as Maverick 768 for a Class D liquor license located at 150 Southwest 48th Street, and the related manager application of Jen Miller.
All right, is the applicant here? Please come forward, thanks. Welcome, you can go to either side there. There's a microphone. Yeah. If you'd like to just introduce yourself with your address.
Yeah.
And then tell us a little bit about your application.
Yeah, so I'm Jen Miller. I'm the district manager for Maverick. The address is 105 Southwest 48th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. We are a convenience store of about 800 stores. We used to be owned by Come and Go, which is a big chain in Omaha. And we've now expanded to you guys, and we are looking to get a liquor license.
Great.
Yeah.
Any questions from council on the application?
I would just comment that since you guys have a lot of liquor licenses already, or you have a lot of convenience stores, I was impressed by the fact that you've had no violations.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. We'll take it.
Any other questions or comments by council? All right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on these items? I'll call item 4C, application of Venue 522 LLC, doing business as Venue 522, for an addition of 2 outdoor areas, 1 irregular shaped area measuring approximately 280 feet by 200 feet, and 1 patio area approximately 30 feet by 16 feet at 1525 Yankee Hill Road.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Derek Zimmerman, Baylor Evans Law Firm, 1248 O Street, Suite 900, here on behalf of Venue 522. And so this is for an addition to the existing liquor license premises. And here previously, application approved. It was the outdoor area, the fencing timeline just didn't sync up with the indoor area. So had to revert back to just the indoor area. And now the exterior area is finished. And so this is just to expand that area. No particular issues at all, just for that purpose. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll move forward.
I'll call item 4D, application of Zoo Blues Inc., doing business as Zoo Bar for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 516 feet by 195 feet on 14th Street between O and P Street on July 11th, 2025 from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. and July 12th from 12 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Anyone here? Is the applicant here to testify or present? Any members of the public that would like to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward.
I'll call item 4E, application of Global Warming, Inc., doing business as The Mill, for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 325 feet by 60 feet at 330 South 21st Street on July 16th, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Is the applicant here? Seeing none, any members of the public here to present on this?
Mr. Chair, seeing no one else coming forward to talk about these items in section 4, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 4A through 4E.
I'd second.
Seconded by Weber. Go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. That concludes section 4. Section 5 is public hearing resolutions. I'll call item 5A. Item 5A is resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue and refunding bonds, easement project series 2025 in one or more series in a principal amount not to exceed $43 million for the purpose of making a loan to Christian Retirement Homes, Inc. in Eastmont, authorizing the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection with the issuance of such bonds and approving related matters.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Joe Donlinger, City of Lincoln Finance Director, 555 South 10th Street. Here to introduce this conduit financing resolution. I'll speak briefly and then introduce the experts here. So really what this conduit financing does, it extends our 501c3, or excuse me, it extends our tax exempt status to a 501c3 when it's in the interest of the city to do so. The city provides no financial backing or guarantee and assumes no liability for repayment. And the conduit financing here today is for Eastmont to repay some of its existing bonds and then do some improvements at its independent living facilities at its main campus. With that, I'll turn it over to Colleen and Andrew with Eastmont and Gilmore and Bell to give you a little more information about the project.
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Duncan. I'm a partner at Gilmore and Bell. We are the city's bond counsel. We represent the city on this financing. As Finance Director Donlinger said, this is a conduit financing so that the bonds can be issued tax exempt. That's a federal rule that allows governmental entities to help nonprofits like Eastmont issue bonds tax exempt for the benefit of their capital improvement programs. This is a refinancing as well as some new money. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the structure, the legal transaction, and Andrew Fisher, who's the executive director of Eastmont, is here to answer any questions that you have about the project. This is very similar to the multifamily housing issues that the city does, as well as I think the Nebraska Wesleyan financing that we did a few years ago, just in terms of other conduit issues the city has been involved with. So we'll pause there and happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you for coming down, Mr. Fisher. I have a question just because you're in front of us this afternoon, not about the financing or the legal things, but in the description it was said that not only you're going to use this to help pay off some existing bonds, but make some changes. And so if you wouldn't mind describing a little bit of the changes that you'll be making to update Eastmont.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. Thank you very much. Andrew Fisher, 6315 O Street, Lincoln, 68510. As the executive director, we just went through the expansion, fantastic opportunity to reposition the campus, and right now we are reinvesting in our existing buildings. So when we make changes, we noticed that when we added new, there were our existing buildings already on campus that really needed to improve and brought up to the finishes that we introduced in the expansion. Be introduced in those existing spaces, as well as some of our apartments as well, renovating those. So that's where the majority of the financing will help in reinvesting in our existing campus as well.
Okay. I look forward to another ribbon cutting at some point.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilman Bowers.
I have a couple of questions, just kind of across the board. When was the last time like this tool had been used for another organization that this mechanism had been used for?
I think this year.
Yeah.
I think this year there's probably a multifamily housing issue that was done this year. Would be my.
So this isn't anything that's unusual. This is a pretty normal thing. Because I mean, I could understand how someone would look at this and not know the historical context that this happens pretty regularly. That the city is extending this. So
Correct. It happens regularly in the state of Nebraska with other cities and counties as well, and nationwide with other, conduit issuers. Some states have, finance authorities that do this. In Nebraska, it's largely cities and counties. But yes, it's an extremely common tool, including here in Lincoln and Lancaster County.
gotcha. So this isn't even the first one this year that we've
No.
Gotcha.
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions?
No, just one comment, Chair Carlson. Thank you for your continued investment in Lincoln at Eastmont. We appreciate it very much. Obviously, senior housing is an issue across the United States, and we appreciate partners such as yourself who continue to make the investment in Lincoln, not only with the expansion last year, but with the continued investment represented here today. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Public, great. Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on this? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we can go ahead and move forward.
I'll call items 5B and 5C together. Items 5B and C is adopting Lincoln Electric System revised annual budget for 2025 to become effective July 1st of 2025, and the related adopting a Lincoln Electric System revised rate schedules to become effective July 1st of 2025.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Oops, I can't move that.
What's up? Oh, excuse me. I'm
All
sorry about
right.
that.
Before we get started with this item, Chair Carlson, I'd like to make a verbal motion to waive our rules to allow first and second reading to happen and public hearing today.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And go ahead and vote on this, so go ahead and call the roll. Oh, excuse me.
Is there a
Gosh,
discussion?
I'm all over the place right now. So, is there any discussion on this first?
No, sir.
No. I would just note that this is, this portion of waiving first, or blending first and second reading is fairly common. It's not the first time we've done that. And it will still allow for the public to comment today, as much as they could have commented, should we have done it in two different readings.
Any other
I guess just
conversations?
two things, or I guess one statement, two sentences, that LES held a public meeting, I believe on May 8th. And then we had a pre-council that was open to the public 2 weeks ago, I believe. So this definitely has been something that's been talked about, and there's been multiple public meetings that have happened on it.
All right. Any other discussion among council? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Now we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay, good
Presentation.
afternoon.
Go ahead.
Thank you, members of the council, for having us here today. My name is Jason Fortick. I'm Vice President of Power Supply Division at Lincoln Electric System, and our business address is 9445 Rokeby Road. And with me is my colleague.
I'm Emily Koenig, Vice President of Financial Services and CFO with the same address as Jason.
Okay, and we do have a presentation that I have, here, I got it pulled up there. So again, thank you for having us here today to discuss this proposed budget modification and rate modification. As you mentioned, we covered some of this material in a pre-council session last week, and so this is a greatly abbreviated version of all that material that we went through last week. But again, please feel free to jump in, ask questions. If there's anything else we can help provide answers to those questions, we'd love to do that today. As we noted in our pre-council session, these budget changes in this rate modification were approved by our board in May of last month. And so what we're now asking for is City Council review and approval of those, and we'll cover a little bit more of those details today. Okay, so this is a very abbreviated version of some of the material we covered last week, but we are a member of the Southwest Power Pool Regional Transmission Organization, and their responsibility, or one of their responsibilities, is to provide reliable generation across SPP footprint. The results of Winter Storm Uri necessitated the need to put some new rules and regulations in process to help ensure that the system is reliable. And the items up on the screen here are a quick summary of some of the most important issues that they've addressed and some of the processes that they've put in place. One of those is called the effective load carrying capability process. This is a new way to rate generation that is non-dispatchable. So think of things like wind generation, solar generation. Effectively, what this does is reduce the amount of accredited capacity, or the ratings of the units of those types of generation that we can use to meet our resource adequacy requirements. They also implemented another process called performance-based accreditation. This is for units that are dispatchable. So think of things like coal, nuclear, hydro, natural gas. What this process does, it looks at the past performance of those types of generation, how available they were to meet needs in the market, and then also how many times they took derates because of things like mechanical issues. So it looks at those past performance issues and then applies a crediting factor, or a reduction likely in the amount of generating capacity that you get to count from those units. And then the last item up on the slide there, that's a process called the planning reserve margin changes. What they've done is increased the amount of generation that we need to have in reserve. And so those changes take effect starting next year. And so what you'll see on an upcoming slide is that there are some pretty big reductions in the amount of generation that we'll have available because of these processes. And that's summarized at the end here. Most utilities in the footprint are going to see a reduction in the amount of the rating that they get from their existing generating resources to meet these resource adequacy requirements. And so a lot of utilities in the footprint are doing the same type of process we are, adding generation to meet those new resource adequacy requirements. Okay, I'll jump to the next slide. So this slide summarizes some of those things that I just covered. There are now summer resource adequacy requirements and winter resource adequacy requirements, and that's what's covered in the top slide and the bottom chart on this slide. The green bars represent the amount of generation that we have available to meet our reserve requirements in both the summer and the winter. That upward sloping orange line, that's the amount of our peak load projection plus the reserves that we're required to cover. And then if you see those little orange numbers above the bars, that's the amount of excess generation that we have available. And so what you notice, that's probably the biggest takeaway from this slide, is when you go from 2025 to 2026, there's a pretty steep reduction in the amount of generation that we have available. And that's a direct result of those resource adequacy changes, the planning reserve margin requirements, and then the performance-based accreditation and effective load carrying capability processes. So in the summer, we're losing about 130 megawatts of accredited capacity, or the amount that we can count towards our reserve margin requirements. And in the winter, we're losing about 200 megawatts of accredited capacity. So in the near term, what are we proposing to do to address this issue? So we have an existing Terry Bundy generating station that we're proposing to add 2 combustion turbines at. When that plant was built in the early 2000s, it was laid out with space for 2 of the type of turbines that we're proposing to add as part of this process. We think that that will help us meet our resource adequacy requirements, plus give us a little bit of extra margin in case other items change or additional rules and regulations come into place. And we don't think that the addition of these 2 turbines is going to appreciably impact our ability to meet our 2040 decarbonization goal. We have a lot of the supporting infrastructure already in place there, so it should be a relatively straightforward process to add these generators at that site. We've been working with consultants, and we think this is about a $180 million project. And so that's part of the reason for the additional budget change and rate changes. And then we also hope to have this generation in place by 2030. So if you remember from the previous slide, those numbers when you get out to the year 2031 go to 0 or less than 0, and that's when we're going to have a resource adequacy deficit. So we'd like to start on this installation now so we can have those turbines in place before our deficit year of 2031. And then the last item on this slide here, we also entered into a contract for hydro generation from the Jeffrey hydroelectric plant that Central Nebraska Public Power and Irrigation District owns and operates. That contract went into effect April 1st, and so we would also use some of this additional funding and budget request to cover the costs for that new contract that we entered into for hydroelectric generation. And that covers my background on the material. And with that, I'll turn it over to our CFO, Emily.
If you advance the slide,
Certainly.
we'll do that. Thanks. So you might ask yourself why we didn't include this in the 2025 budget. Because these rules were just put in place in August of last year. So we were already down the road and well into our budget and rates development at that time. And so we were not able to incorporate this because it took several months from August to basically December before Jason and the power supply team at LES really were able to understand the rules and how they would apply to our generation resources. And we've spent since December, basically through April, May timeframe, kind of educating our staff and our board and the community on what it meant for us and our resources. So it is not our preference to do a mid-year rate adjustment or a budget amendment, but because of the speed at which we need to get in the queue for the turbines for the TBGS additions, we felt it was prudent to come before you and ask for an addition to the 2025 capital budget, because the longer we wait to do that, we believe that the cost will be higher in the long run, and that this is the most cost-effective thing to do for LES customers. And so we also determined just about a month or so ago that the cash flows that will be required in 2025 are much greater than what we had previously thought if we were to get into the queue, because of what the vendors basically can demand, because there is so much demand for these generators. So those things combined have caused us to be in front of you today. So we are proposing a 4% mid-year rate increase to be effective July 1st. That generates about $6.5 million just in this year from LES customers. This gives you a little bit of history of where we've been. We had a period of time where we didn't have any rate increases for several years, and you can see that we've had several the last few years, and then this mid-year proposed rate increase. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight, just with the increased pressures and demands and rule changes and so forth that we're seeing in the utility industry, it's likely that you will see us before you each year with a rate increase probably in the 3 to 5% range. We are doing everything that we can to put downward pressure on the 2026 rate increase, knowing that this mid-year rate increase for 25 was not planned. We're in the process right now of putting that budget together, and so it will be somewhere less than that is what we're expecting. But there are some things that are outside of our control, like power cost, where we are minority owners of some of the generating plants that we're participating in. So we're in the process of doing that, but know that we're being diligent in reviewing costs in that budget. So just to summarize, this is the ask. So we are looking at an addition of $180 million, bringing the capital budget up to over $300 million. As you recall, this is the first year where we've asked for the total project cost for capital projects that we bring forward. So that is the total estimated cost of the additions at Terry Bundy is $180 million. We'll know better here in a few months after we execute the contracts for that. So there may be some precision as we bring forward the 2026 budget that we're able to apply to that budget. And then the second part of that is the mid-year rate increase of 4% to be effective July 1st. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions from council? Councilman Weber, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. And, I want to start off by saying I have such a deep level of respect for the professionals at Lincoln Electric System. But I share the sentiment, right, that a mid-year rate increase is not preferable. And so I have some questions about how we got here and what we can expect going forward. So my first question is about the resource adequacy requirements, which I believe was mentioned to be directly resulting in the reason that we're seeing this potential rate increase. And on the slide, there was the statement that as a result of the Southwest Power Pool's or new requirements, new regulations, that we will see a reduction in the ratings of our adequacy requirements. Explain to someone like me who has you know, I'm not in the utility industry.
Sure.
Explain to me why these regulations directly reduce the capability of LES.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I'll
Yes.
probably start with the explanation of nameplate capacity for generation compared to accredited capacity. And so nameplate capacity is quite literally can be the number stamped on the nameplate of the generator, the maximum amount that is capable of producing. Accredited capacity is the amount that you get to use to meet your peak load plus reserve requirements.
Okay.
And almost without exception, the accredited capacity is a lower number than the nameplate capacity because it's not always available to meet your peak load. And so there was a process for doing that accredited rating in the past, and that's what you saw in those 2025 numbers. All of our units rated with that previous methodology. The new processes that SPP has implemented reduce that accredited rating. And it's based on how your units have performed in the past. They look at outage time, availability to the market, and like for the ELCC process for non-dispatchable, it essentially says the more of those types of generators that are added to the footprint, the lower the accreditation you get to use for them. So when you apply that to all of our units, it drops down or reduces the amount that we get to use to cover our peak loads plus reserve margin requirements.
So it's all in the reliability. It's all to boost reliability. For
Right, yeah. I think I mentioned, but it really is a result of the effects of Winter Storm Uri, and you know there were some unfortunate outages that occurred during that, and a lot of generation that just was not available like it was expected to be. And so SPP reviewed all of the performance of the units and said, I think we need to do some changes here to re-rate these units to be more representative of how they're actually performing when they're asked to participate in the market.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you for that explanation. And so going off of that, we have this resource adequacy requirement that Lincoln Electric system needs to either exceed or maintain, right? What happens if, right, that number goes below, right? So if we're not able to reach that requirement, what happens?
Right. So the governing document for SPP is a document called the tariff, SPP tariff, and it's a FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approved document. And there are provisions in there that lay out penalties if you drop below those reserve margin requirements. And it's based on what they call the CONE, cost of new entry. But what does it cost for a new generator to be constructed and make itself available? And so if you drop below those thresholds, you'll be assessed a penalty based on that CONE, or the cost of new generation, plus another factor in there for how the whole footprint is doing. And so the net, the net result of the bottom line is you'll be assessed an annual penalty for all the megawatts that you're below your requirements each year.
Okay. And so just in the land of hypotheticals, say we dip below that threshold and a penalty is assessed, what is the financial cost of something like that, and who is typically responsible for paying that penalty? I imagine, right, there's a financial penalty associated with it.
Sure. So it's a concept or an acronym. It's an LRE, Load Responsible Entity. That's a defined term in SPP's tariff. So any entity that is an LRE, or Load Responsible Entity, like us, can be assessed that penalty if you don't meet those resource requirements. And then ultimately, we would have to build that into rates or somehow collect enough funds to pay that penalty.
Okay.
And we're no different than any other entity in the
Absolutely.
footprint that has that load responsibility.
Yeah, so that not specific just to LES, but anyone in the power pool,
Correct.
right? If you get penalized, the ratepayers may, be responsible then for paying that penalty to a degree.
Correct.
Hi, good afternoon. Emeka Anyo, I'm the CEO at LES. I just thought I'd chime in really quickly on this because I think one of the important things to note about those penalties is that they are intended to incentivize utilities to be ready and not rely on paying the penalty if they're not.
Yep.
So those are typically going to be more expensive and more impactful to our ratepayers.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that point of clarification.
I think at some point too, we have very good representation on SPP committees, particularly for the size of LES. We're pretty small. At some point, if we just decided to pay penalties instead of do what's right for reliability, we could probably count on not being on committees and not being able to represent LES well.
Right.
That's a good point.
And if I may add
yes.
too, just from a reliability perspective, if one utility with a very small amount of, deficit does that, it might not impact the whole footprint. But if lots of utilities took that same approach and just decided to not add generation and pay the penalty instead, you'd start to see effects across the whole footprint.
Great, thank you. And so now I'm going to shift gears a bit to discussing the cash outflows, right? Because my understanding is that it's the unanticipated amount of cash outflows related to the Terry Bundy generating system or station that is the reason that we are seeing this proposal before us today to then be able to meet those adequacy requirements that we just talked about. Was the cash outflows not included in the most recent budget, or was it not accounted for, right? Should there have been a area of the budget we saw last year that accounted for these cash outflows? I guess would be my question.
So it's kind of twofold. So the project itself, the $180 million project, was not in the budget. Can you hear me? I feel like I'm okay. Sorry, sounded weird to me. Was not in the budget, so the cash flows were not in the budget. We had contemplated kind of early on in this process to only bring the budget amendment forward to you so that we would not do a rate increase, knowing the impact of a mid-year rate increase. That's a little bit problematic because that is bringing forward a budget that's not funded. But knowing that we had financing facilities and that the cash outflows in 2025 were going to be somewhat modest, we were comfortable doing that until we started in early negotiations with the vendor for the turbines and realized that the probability of the cash outflows were going to be much, much greater than what we thought, which would cause us to pull on some of our short-term financing facilities at a much higher rate than we were comfortable with in 2025. And then it just seemed more prudent to have a very transparent process where we were bringing you the $180 million project, as well as the 4% is what it costs. It's a 4% pretty much for 30 years. Putting it in one time will cover the debt service requirements of that project forever. And so I think that's more transparent to bring the whole thing forward at once. So did I answer that?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And I appreciate the transparency, by the way, in this process. And so I guess the realization came up during early negotiations with the vendors, right? We're accounting for $25 million, right? Up to $25 million in cash flows?
Well, no, the 4% only brings in about 6.5 on our best latest projections. So it's not taking care of everything.
Okay.
We're going to borrow for the majority of this project anyway. It's going to be a mix of paying, debt service and cash outflows and paying a portion of it with revenues that are collected within the current year.
Okay. And then sorry. Were you going
to? If I may, I was also going to add to Emily's comment, it's not our preference to do a mid-year adjustment like this, but we did not know that these rules were going to be finalized until late in the year last year. And so that was already past our budgeting process. And so once we knew what the final rules were and then started running them through all of our planning models, that's when the issue became apparent. And then when we started learning how long it would take to acquire the equipment and place it in service and when our deficit year was going to occur, that really prompted the need to accelerate this and try to get it done through a process that preferably would have been done on the annual budget cycle, but we chose, because of the expediency we felt we needed to have, do it through a mid-year process.
Absolutely.
And so one last sort of bit of context I'll add to that. It's important to us, and we're always trying to strike a balance of making sure that when we are recovering the cost of doing business, the cost of our operations from our customers, that we are trying to do so in a timely fashion, but not too soon. And so the conversation about when was the right time to decide that there was in fact something we needed to do and something we needed to invest in is always sort of a balance. And so you're sort of waiting for the rules to be finalized because you don't want to go too soon and have the wrong amount. but we also don't want to go too late, which is why we're doing this mid-year. This is certainly not something, as Emily said, that we take lightly or are doing. We certainly don't want to have to do this, and we recognize this has an impact on customers. And so, but we're trying to strike the right timing balance with the sense of urgency around trying to get going on the new assets.
Great. And then, do you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Chair? Okay, thank you. I have one question. It's a little bit of a backup. I'm going to go to something that Councilman Weber had asked. But when you were describing nameplate and accredited, the difference between those, I'm just very curious, where does LES stand in relationship to other members of the Southwest Power Pool? I mean, is that spread about the same for everybody? Are we better than other groups, worse?
You mean in terms of the amount that we're decreasing?
Yeah.
I can't speak to individual utilities, but I can speak to materials that SPP has published, and as a whole, the SPP footprint is losing quite a bit of accredited capacity. So much so that they're projecting within the next, I think, 3 years, that if utilities don't add substantial amounts of generation, the footprint will become deficit. I'm sorry I can't provide individual utility data, but this is a footprint-wide issue, and utilities across the footprint are trying to do things to address it.
Thank you.
Certainly.
And then I had one last question that I want to finish with. And so we talked about rate increases as well towards the end, and you had mentioned 2026, and that we'll become accustomed to seeing you up here. What are the long-term plans that are happening internally to really account for potential rate increases in future years?
I can start on that one. So many of you may be aware, and I think we've had council members join us at some of the public meetings for our strategic plan. And that's where we're really looking deeply at this stuff. We've been working on that since since the middle of last year, but we really started the work proper in October. And we're thinking about all of the different scenarios. We're recognizing not only the realities of the marketplace, the realities of increasing demand, certainly the realities around the supply chain and the policy environment, and trying to craft the right mix of contingencies and possibilities that will allow us to sort of maintain some kind of stability. What we don't want is for there to be a lot of kind of bumpiness or lumpiness down the road. We want to try to keep the path somewhat smooth and somewhat under control. But that requires us to be very nimble, right? Which is part of what we're starting already here as we're starting this work, is to really think about how do we balance all of the things that sort of are coming our way, the realities of what's going to happen with the footprint. A lot of this, as described, also has to do with really changing weather and climate patterns, and we're thinking about that from the standpoint of the resiliency of our own assets, not just from a generation perspective, but also from a wires perspective. So there are a lot of things that we're trying to do. We're working really hard also to really look down the road so that we're not just making these decisions or choices or doing this planning year over year. And so part of what's going to be true about that strategic planning framework is that will be something that we refresh. So the framework is set up not only to be done one time and put on the shelf, but really to revisit in multiple years so that we're staying on top of what is a very dynamically changing operating environment for us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all three of you being here today and answering those questions. Thank you.
Council, other questions?
Jason or Emily, as you've done your evaluation with the impact to ratepayers here in the Lincoln community, what do you anticipate for a residential ratepayer the increase would be for your average residential ratepayer should these proposals move forward?
Yep. So for an average residential customer, it'll be about $4 per month. I would add to that, while it's not ideal, and I know any rate increase is not preferred, we do have one of the metrics, kind of tagging on with what Emeka mentioned, that we pay a lot of attention to is the electric bill as a percentage of household income, we are one of the very lowest in the nation at about 1.4%. Most are over 2%, and so we monitor that when we have rate increases. And so even though we are increasing, we're still very affordable in the community. So I just thought I'd add that. That is one of the metrics that we'll be monitoring as part of our strategic plan, continuing to look at.
I think that community relativity is important for people to keep in mind. We have been living in an environment in the city of Lincoln where the Lincoln electric system has been historically very affordable for folks because of how well it has been run over a period of time, and also to keep in mind the relativity of what other members of the Southwest Power Pool are needing to accomplish in order to also meet these new regulations. Lincoln is not alone. Every member of the Southwest Power Pool is doing their own evaluation and looking to see what potential deficiencies they need to address, which also have an economic impact on each one of those facilities as well. So I think relativity and a bit of perspective is always important to when we talk about balancing the impact of increases, which of course no one likes, but we are certainly not alone in this process. So thank you, Chair Carlson.
Council, other questions?
I got a couple questions, and you probably have already answered these, but I just kind of need to say them in my own words just to kind of, hear them response. Why at the mid-year? Why do it now as opposed to just waiting to next year, right? Again, you've touched on this already, but I just kind of need to say this and hear it in my own words. Why mid-year, and why not just do the rate increase next year?
I'd say first and foremost, primarily is we need to put our name in the queue for the turbines. The faster we do that, the cheaper it will be. That is our belief, and the faster we can get them in place so that we don't incur the penalties associated with not meeting our requirement. Every month that we wait is months, plural, on the back end, and additional cost for customers. And so that was the primary focus. And then doing the rate increase mid-year was to be transparent about we're bringing forward, we weren't authorized to spend on the turbines because it's not in our budget, so we needed to bring forward the budget amendment. And so bringing forward the required rate increase to pay for that budget item as well as the cash flows is the most transparent thing to do.
And so I believe I heard that you said that you're going to pay for the new turbines like partly through debt service and then also partly with the rate increase?
It'll be mostly debt service. The rate increase will generate funds to pay for the debt service.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So the rate increase will provide the funds to pay for the debt service on the bonds that will be issued likely in early next year.
Gotcha. Can you talk to me a little bit about how this might impact low-income ratepayers, and do we keep track of like the percentage of folks that have their electricity shut off? And what I'm wondering is this going to lead to an increase in folks getting power shut off?
Yeah, I'll try to respond to that. I think, there are a couple of different things going on here. I don't know that we are anticipating an increase in power shutoffs or delinquencies because of this rate increase. What we do know, however, is because of the current environment, that economic environment, that we have seen increasing pressure on low-income customers and our most vulnerable communities with the cost of their energy. And that is, quite frankly, as electricity becomes more and more important in the way people navigate their lives, going to be something that continues to happen. And so part of our strategic plan contemplates us beginning to do more in those spaces, and not just in terms of bill assistance, but really thinking about programs and technologies and tools that can allow customers not only to have access, of course, to assistance, but also to be able to manage their usage in effective ways, have more efficiency. And so we're going to be turning over every rock that we can find to make sure that we can take care of the most vulnerable members of our community, because we recognize this is just the start of what is a trend as it becomes more and more costly to keep the lights on, as it becomes more and more a part of what people need to navigate their daily lives. We want to make sure that we're providing as many tools for them to be able to manage that going forward.
So do you all currently keep track in your data how many folks each year get their power turned off due to non-payment?
We do keep track of that. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
I would just be interested to see that in the historical component of that. I know that there's a conversation about, increasing rates, but are there any other fees that are going to be created? And what this is referencing to is, you get your power turned off, then you have to pay a reconnect fee, right? And if someone's already unable to pay their light bill, then they got to come up with paying their entire light bill, and then they got to come up with paying the reconnect fee, and it's part of that poverty tax, right? Like where it's more expensive to, get caught in that cycle. And that's really like kind of like what's pulling at me on this, right? Is increasing rates, that's one thing, but then if power gets disconnected, those folks then have to pay a reconnect fee. And I would just like to have you respond to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the best person to respond to that is probably in the gallery, but I think what we should do is provide you information offline, maybe kind of how that works exactly, because the three of us are probably not the best equipped to answer that.
And I mean, my career is as a social worker, so I know how, I know the programs that exist, but I also know the headaches that go along with some of those programs and the limitations that go along with that, and different organizations, meeting their capacity in that. So, that's
one thing I would add, and it's not huge, and it's not what Emeka described as far as getting to the root cause of what's causing a customer to have a high energy bill. But there is, by resolution of the LES board, anytime we raise rates, we do provide additional funding to the community action for energy assistance. So we are doing that as part of this as well. So there will be additional funds that go to that program to provide assistance. It's not the best. We'd rather get to the root cause of the problem, but there will be additional funding that's available for energy assistance as well. But we will get back to you on a better answer as far as the specifics on how many customers are shut off for non-payment, and then kind of what the fees are to get reconnected. And
for sure, and again, that's probably a longer conversation that we can have offline. But I'll go to my next and last question for right now. So what's the plan if the council doesn't approve this, right? If the council ultimately comes back and says, no, we don't feel comfortable with it for whatever that reason is, what's the plan, or what's the outcome?
Well, I mean, at this point, if the council doesn't approve it, obviously we would not be approved to spend the money that it takes to acquire these assets. And so we would have to kind of go back and have a conversation about what are the alternatives. Again, the sort of the far out alternative ultimately is to expose ourselves and our ratepayers to the penalties, which is also not a good outcome from a cost and rates perspective. And so it really is about having a conversation about what is acceptable for us to be proactive. Again, we've brought forward what we believe to be our best option at this time. We think not only in terms of the timing, but as Jason described, the Terry Bundy generating station and having all of those supporting structures already in place helps reduce our risk. So that's one of the factors, right? Because when you're doing these large, complex engineering projects, part of what you're facing is just the overall risk of doing a complex project. Anything that goes wrong can sort of impact your timeline and your costs. And so we think we've picked the most prudent, lowest risk project that we can find. That will allow us to avoid the specter of those penalties, and that's what we brought forward.
And I guess, sorry, I saw you almost raised your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. It wasn't included in this presentation, but there was some slides in the pre-council session material of all of the things we evaluated. And as you can probably imagine, we went through many, many different types of generation that we could add. This was the overall evaluated lowest net cost. So if we needed to go back and do something different, virtually all the other options that we evaluated were much more costly, in the order of like 2 to 2.5 times for the next least costly item. So we think this is a prudent course of action.
For sure. And I guess one more question. Sorry. You're fine. I guess to nail it down a little bit more, I guess in my mind there's two questions, right? It's to amend the budget to allow you all to build the turbines, and then also the 4% rate increase, right? And I guess to nail it down a little bit more, if we say, okay, if you have the money, go build the turbines or whatever, but not the 4% rate increase, then I guess what happens in that world?
So we're a cost of service agency, so that means we would have to come back to the council at some later date to talk about the rate impacts of that increased expenditure. The increased expenditure is going to have an impact on rates whether it's now or later.
Right.
As Emily said, we chose to bring it forward now because it's the most transparent way to make sure it is clear what part of the rate action is applicable to this asset addition. So if we don't take the rate action now, we're just going to have to take the same action in a different way at a different time.
Yeah, the debt service and being able to maintain our AA bond rating by borrowing $180 million is $14 million a year, which we currently don't over-collect in our rates for that amount. It would make me extremely uncomfortable at this point for you to approve the $180 million and not approve the rates. I mean, we'd be banking on coming back in November and asking for, 4+ something probably to fund 2026 plus what's needed for this, and hoping that would happen.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. First, I really appreciate the transparency here. Being able to line up the cost with the rate increase is really important, and I know that nobody wants a rate increase, but this is what you're bringing to us, and it's important that we all have an understanding of what to look forward to, because we always want to know. You're not giving us the news we want to hear, because you just told us that our rates are going to continue to go up, and you're going to do it in small pieces, but we should expect a rate increase for the next number of years. We've really been talking a lot about residential, and I guess I want to flip it just a little bit and talk a little bit about commercial, because our business neighbors also are getting rate increases. Can you talk a little bit about the impacts on commercial?
Yeah, unfortunately you missed it in the pre-council session, but it was the slide that I said was super boring because everybody is 4% exactly.
Everybody.
So, yeah, it was so because it is one simple increase in one area of the budget, so to speak, it's applied pretty much evenly across all classes. So typically, when I come, you'll see that different classes have different rate increases because we do our cost of service analysis. Not in this case, business customers on average can expect that a 4% increase as well.
Regardless of their size of use.
Usage matters a little bit, but mostly those are demand customers, so it's pretty much in their demand charge. So, yep.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, council? Thank you. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there members of the public that would like to comment on this? If so, please come forward.
My name is Anastasia Finner. I'm going to waive my address for my safety. Couple things. All cost is a barrier. All cost is a barrier. And of course, when cost goes up, people are going to have their power shut off, especially in an era where LIHEAP is under threat. Like, how are people supposed to live? Why do average citizens have to pay for the failures of Lincoln and LES? Because when our budget fails, we don't get to come and ask for reprieve, especially kind of gross that people come and ask for reprieve who are never going to be at risk for having their power shut off. It is only low risk if you don't think that people need power. Not having power can put people's lives in incredible jeopardy. Not only for home devices, for medical purposes, right? Because when my power was shut off, I was alerted to it because my mother's sleep apnea machine stopped working. That machine makes sure that she keeps breathing while she sleeps. And LES shut my power off once upon a time with no notice, okay? So these low-risk things are not low risk. They are incredibly high risk. Getting your power shut off could also mess with someone's lease. I'm sure, I don't know, has anyone in here ever had their power shut off? Very, very interesting. So sometimes when you have a lease, they have like lots of rules, right? And one of those rules, sometimes in a lease, can state that you have to be connected to gas or to electricity, whatever the situation hookup is at your particular home, right? And if you do not have that connected, you're in violation of your lease, which means that your housing is now insecure. Is that a small risk? Have any of you been homeless? Have any of you truly gone without power in a time that is as dangerous as this? Because the price of food is going up. The price of rent has gone up artificially. And now we're just here in a public meeting saying that people potentially not having power in the winter, when we have had negative 25-degree days, is somehow low risk, when people might not have power in Nebraska in the summer because of shutoffs. That is not low risk. Playing with people's lives is not low risk. If you do not have power, you do not have a life in the United States, right? You don't have power, you could get kicked out of your home. You don't have power, then, you don't have power for your phone. How are you going to, ensure that you're getting to work on time? Everything is precarious for so many people. And we're aware. Not too long ago, at another city council meeting, it was described a neighborhood that the average lifespan was between, 40 and 50? And that's an average, which means that there's a lot of people in that neighborhood that are dying well below those ages. And I don't understand how people who are not at risk of what I have just discussed could possibly call having a lifeline taken away because you cannot afford it because wages are not increasing, low risk. People's lives being ruined is not low risk. Just because it might be a small number of people that you don't know doesn't make it any more low risk. I hope that the people that voted for you understand that you are playing with their lives, because I know that there's some poor folks that were totally fleeced to support any of you. And now you're calling the potential destruction of their lives low risk. Cool.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to testify? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Amy. I'm also not going to be sharing my address. I had known about this rate increase before. This is the first time that I'm hearing it, and I just had a couple of notes as I was listening to everyone's speech. First of all, I find it interesting that they were directly asked what the penalty is, and they did not answer. They did not give us an amount for what a penalty they would face is. I noticed that was left out, even though it was part of the question that was asked. Additionally, I really think that the community relativity is lost, because as I was sitting in my seat, I looked, and if you add up all of their salaries that they receive for this year, I will have to work 12 years to make that same amount. I did some quick math for everyone, just so that people can, I'm privileged. I want to be very clear. I am privileged. I am not an at-risk member of the community, and this is what my budget looks like every paycheck. I don't know how to work this. How do you work this?
It'll just come on.
Oh, it just comes on, okay.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, the $1,400, that's what I make. After I pay rent, that's $1,000. then I have $200 because I was told in my generation that if you go to college, you'll make more money. And so I did. So now I pay $200 every month because we're being threatened with garnishment now if we get behind and go delinquent. So I have to pay for my student loans. I can't keep putting them off. So that's $200. There's $66, and I can't remember if that's LES or if that's Black Hills Energy. It's one of them. And I also pay $89. I don't remember that's one utility or the other, and I can't remember which is which. I also have to pay $60 for gas because my job is requiring return to office policies, and my job is across town. So I drive 20 minutes to and from work every day. So I need about $60 for gas. And when you add all of that up, I come to negative $15. So they're talking about a 4% increase. That is, if someone pays $100, that's, well, I guess that's $4, I believe, if I'm doing the math right. I just did that in my head, so bear with me. This is why you need math in school. But that $4 is a sandwich for somebody. That's ramen noodles for your kid. That's a lot of things that I don't think somebody that makes $600,000 a year is really going to have a good understanding of. On top of that, my energy's been shut off, and I work until 5. So I get home, my energy is shut off. Who do I get to call? Because LES is not coming out until the next day to come turn my power back on. And if I have a past due balance, you have to pay all of it. So suddenly, when you were just getting by, maybe you have to pay $200, and you aren't going to have that. So what are you supposed to do as a person to support your family, to live? And again, I'm privileged. I make more than a lot of people that I'm talking about. Like I said, and with that, I'll be transparent because they were being transparent. I make $70,000 a year at my job. I have a well-paying job, and I am very lucky to have it. Even with that, my power has been turned off because I'm making all of these payments and my rent is lower than others because my parents own my house. So I pay them rent. So I pay what's comparable to most other people, but there's people who are paying $1,200, $1,400, $1,500, $2,000 to be able to house their families, and they're making less than I make. So I really think there's a lot of consideration that needs to go into the rate change. I'm also really concerned that the burden is being put on the customers for LES's inadequacy, and they didn't tell us what the penalty is. What is the penalty? If they took half of what these people behind me make, would that pay the penalty? So why not take it out of their salary? Why punish us? That's my question.
That's 5 minutes. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify on this issue? Please come forward. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Tristan. I reside at 7120 South 30th Place. I actually wasn't going to speak on this, but with the last two comments that we had, I felt the need to come up here. Just like the last person who came up and spoke, I make a lot more than a lot of people in the public. I make about $85,000, $86,000 a year. That's about take home. Even with that, I have 4 kids. My budget is tight every month. I have to put aside about $4,000 a month just to support my kids. I live with in-laws, so I don't have to pay rent. I just have to pay the utilities, internet, the likes. But then you got to factor in food costs because of how much I make. I don't really get approved for that much for food stamps, and food is constantly rising. Food is expensive. Normally, LES is about equal with Black Hills, but just like this last month, when I opened it, I was surprised. It usually ranges about $180 a month for supporting my family in the house, everyone that uses it across all their devices, TVs, etc. But this last month, it jumped up to $280. That's quite a big jump from the previous month. I get that we're going into summer. It takes a little bit more to cool the house. We are getting hotter months than we had in previous years. Therefore, the cooling cost is going up quite a bit as well. So even though there might be a small rate increase to the amount of electricity you are using, you also got to factor in the fact that you are going to be using more electricity going forward because we are getting colder days. We are getting hotter days. It's going to take more to heat and cool your house. And with how much I make, last year before my fourth child was born, I wasn't really approved for LIHEAP or any utility stuff. Now I can get some assistance with that. Having a fourth child kind of helps allow me to get approved for those such things. But even still, with how much I make, again, just like the last person, I make a lot more than a lot of people in this community. I know many, many people who have to live with roommates just to be able to pay for the utilities and rent. Rent has been consistently going up, and that makes it harder for people to budget to put money aside for utilities. So just a small increase can mean a big difference in the budget for people. Having that budget to actually have a family, support the family, be able to feed them. At the end of the day, you don't want to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to feed your kids simply because you had to pay an extra, they say $4, but with how much usage is going up, I doubt it's just going to be $4. It's probably going to be closer to that jump that I had from last month to this month, where it went from like $180 to $280. It's quite substantial amount of money that we're talking about here for the average person to be paying in order to take that out of other bits of your budget, because you have to think about your insurance, your fuel, maintenance of your car. If you don't factor in all of this, then you could be stranded. You could lose your car if you don't have that ability to put that extra bit aside to plan for those eventualities that your car, maybe you blow a tire because you spent that on the increase on LES. Now you can't go get that tire replaced. You miss work. You got a final notice at work. And I have lived in a situation where my lease did say that if you weren't able to pay for utilities, then you'd be in violation. And I have gotten notices from my landlord saying that if it happened again, I would get an eviction notice without warning. That is all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify? Please come forward. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Winston. I'm appearing for Nebraska Interfaith Power and Light and the Nebraska Sierra Club. And I'm going to be speaking in a neutral capacity. I'm a big supporter of the Lincoln Electric system. They've got low rates, great reliability. I really appreciate the planning processes they've gone through to set the 2040 net zero decarbonization goal. And I also want to commend them for the transparency they've had in this process. I think I've sat through 6 presentations of their plans to deal with the generation resource adequacy issue that's been presented by the Southwest Power Pool. But and while we appreciate all of that, the organizations that I represent cannot come in and say we support a rate increase for the purpose of investing in fossil fuel generation. And so here's where we're coming from. We would prefer to see investments in renewable energy like wind, solar, and battery storage. We believe that would be the best investment both now and for the future. We also believe that there's some opportunities for investment in efficiency and demand side management that have not been fully investigated, and we believe that those should be investigated as well. And then there's another aspect of this that is concerning well, they didn't talk about the next step, but how are they planning to meet the net zero goals going forward? Well, they're talking about some things that are extremely expensive, that are going to cause rate increases that are going to be much more, well, be shocking rate increases, I would say. Because what they're talking about, if they, for example, if they were to invest in small modular nuclear, we're talking about a doubling of rates within 10 years. And an investment of $3 billion or more. And very concerned about that. We believe that should not be the direction they go, that the investment should be in renewable energy, in battery storage, because carbon capture and sequestration and small modular nuclear, there aren't any anywhere in the U.S. that are currently operating. Nowhere. And Scott Benson will, with LES, will readily admit that. So it's something, let's not plan our future on something that doesn't currently exist. Also concerned about the life cycle impacts of investing in gas on both the environment and the economy. And then I guess would like to see more investments in utility scale solar and battery storage. And I guess I'd like to call your attention to a project that this council has approved, which is right northeast of Lincoln, 250 megawatts of solar. And I understand there's also 75 megawatts of battery storage. That could help meet the accreditation requirements. So I'd like to have those things on people's minds. And then I guess I really appreciate the comments that CEO made about the importance of protecting vulnerable citizens, as well as the comments that Councilman Bowers made, because absolutely, we need to make sure that vulnerable citizens are going to be protected. And part of my thinking about this is being shaped by what's happening on the national level right now. What I call the big bad billionaires bill would take funding from Medicaid, it would take funding from SNAP, it would take funding from low-income energy efficiency programs. And all of those are going to hurt local people. And we're going to have to, if those things pass, and I'm encouraging everyone to contact their federal representatives and say, that's not acceptable. But if those things pass, that's going to put more burdens on us here locally. And these are not going to be the last rate increases. So we're going to have to figure out how to help people pay their bills. I mean, we've heard from 3 people already that talked about the challenges they have paying their bills. And so anyway, I just wanted to lay those things out and say, I appreciate where LES is coming from. It's a great organization, but I also want to raise some of the concerns that we have about this proposal. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you.
Justin? I got one question for you, Ken, because LES is going to have an opportunity to provide a rebuttal. You mentioned within 10 years doubling of rates, just so that way it gives them an opportunity to respond to that. What were you talking about with that?
It would be the small modular nuclear. I can put it if that's helpful. Should I turn it sideways? Is that the way it is? Like that. There we go. All right. Viola. Okay. So they're talking about, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here. And like I said, I appreciate, but if in order to meet the net zero goals, there's a couple of, like 3 scenarios they've laid out, and this is one of them.
Okay.
And so right now they're talking about, basically it would be a doubling of rates if there was an investment of $2.95 billion. And obviously this is one of their slides. I mean, I did not generate this.
Okay, thank you.
You bet, thank you. And like I said, I'm a big fan of those folks sitting over there. think they do a great job, but I think we need to consider all the potential impacts of this decision.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to testify? Please come forward now. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Deborah Nicholson. Do you need my address?
Please.
6520 Rexford Drive, Lincoln. I'm going to tell you about Jigar Shah. He is a physicist and a financial whiz. He's known for his work at the U.S. Department of Energy as the Director of Loan Programs Office. From 2021 to 25, he successfully managed a budget of hundreds of billions of dollars to get new clean energy innovation and technology to scale in the global market. So I trust him when he says that local utilities should be turning to clean energy and storage rather than continuing their reliance on fossil fuels. LES has found the purchase of 2 new gas turbines to be the least expensive way to produce enough energy to keep everyone warm during the severe winter storms. But really, maybe the easiest, but the cheapest, are rising utility bills, soaring home insurance premiums, and the personal loss and the financial costs of climate disasters tell us that the consequences of burning fossil fuels are unaffordable. I am fortunate to be able to pay for utilities, but I don't want to pay higher rates to invest in more gas. I want to pay higher rates to transition away from fossil fuels. A combination of solar and storage, and I'm sort of repeating Ken, geothermal, hydro, and wind can keep us warm in the winter, so why turn to gas turbines again and again to meet future demands and to retire our coal plants? Even if new gas turbines operate at 90% efficiency, throughout the natural gas supply chain, gas venting and unintended emissions make its carbon footprint similar to other fossil fuels. Let's not continue the same polluting behavior that has led to our current climate crisis. And what about demand management? I'd be willing to turn my thermostat down a few degrees to help meet the peak demands during severe winter storms. I believe LES asked people to do that, ratepayers to do that a few years ago, and it wasn't that many degrees. How much more would we have to raise rates or lower our thermostats to address our energy needs responsibly and sustainably? If we transition away from fossil fuels soon enough, our kids and grandkids might enjoy more days with pleasant temperatures, better health, and cleaner air. Please prioritize climate and quality of life when planning and budgeting for future improvements. Choose clean energy. It's available now, less expensive to operate, and can be produced right here in Nebraska, which is good for our economy. Thank you to the city and to LES for all you do for your net zero 2040 goals. I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you. That next testifier, please come forward. If anyone would like to come forward to comment. Welcome.
Council members, good afternoon. I'm Jason Ball, appearing on behalf of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce and our 1,250 members, our board of directors, officing out of 1128 Lincoln Mall. And I appear today in support of the 2 proposed additional electric generators to be added at the Terry Bundy generation facility that are under consideration. However, we do so with great sensitivity about the concerns of businesses and ratepayers about controlling costs that we've been hearing about today. We view this as a necessary investment, although one that should not be taken lightly. I think I'm a little bit unique in Lincoln. because our family lived in Round Rock, Texas, when Winter Storm Uri hit in February of 2021. And I can tell you the experience in Round Rock that we experienced is power did go out. For some people, it went out for more than a week. Municipal systems, because they ran out of gas for on-site generators at their water pumping stations, lost the required pressure to provide water without having to go on boil notices. And then even that precipitated some really amazing collaboration between first responders, fire, and police to get gas back to those generators and actually move generators on site. So there is danger associated with this. There are some real risks if we get into a situation where we do not have a robust power system like the Southwest Power Pool is trying to respond to. And that is really the root cause of today's discussion, is what the Southwest Power Pool learned from Winter Storm Uri is we need to make investments in making our winter generation capacity more robust so we don't have situations like that in major American cities, and certainly we don't want to see a situation like that right here in Lincoln. So the urgency for this investment really comes from the combination of those new minimum requirements for serving peak demand from the SPP, combined with the historically long lead time to purchase this generation equipment. We heard it's 5 years. Earlier in my career, it would take 3 years or less to get a transformer on site. Now we're seeing in excess of 3 years for those large pieces of equipment. Generators are in high demand right now. We have got to get in line. And so that's the other component of this scenario. More simply put, the goalposts for what used to be enough electricity have moved, and it takes that long time to get generators on site and installed. It's important to acknowledge this need to invest in capacity is not the result of any one business or industry. It's not the fault of data centers. This has been brought about by those changes in SPP regulatory standards. Now, many folks in our community have been focused on sustainable or renewable energy concerns, and that is just fine. I know LES has adopted long-term goals to get there. I'm not here to comment on those goals, but what I do want to point out is in recent years and months, LES has added more than 448 megawatts of new sustainable energy through wind, battery, and hydro-generated resources. So if that's a concern for members of our community, they can feel good. LES is moving in a direction that gets us there, and much of that was enabled through partnerships with private business. This plan, as proposed, is the most fiscally responsible option that is available to the community, however. Natural gas generators are the lowest cost option. It would be a higher cost to add different kinds of generation resource at this time. And in our assessment, we think LES has balanced the need to protect ratepayers with the need to expand generation in a robust way. It's notable. We're benefiting from the long-sighted leadership of previous leadership. The Terry Bundy site was built, so there are pad sites ready for 2 generators to go in. We don't have to make major investments in the Terry Bundy site. And it's fiscally responsible to make this investment because, as LES spoke to earlier, if we fail to meet SPP capacity standards as set by these new rules, we will incur a penalty, and we don't want to see that money leave our community. Lastly, I want to point out, LES, as we saw in one of the slides, has a strong history of protecting ratepayers, and we had a period of about 5 years where we saw 0 or even 1 year a negative increase in rates, and that is great. But in recent years, we've seen 4.8, 3.7, and 3.3%. Now we're considering a mid-year 4%. And so what the Chamber has recommended to LES, and we'll continue this recommendation to the Council, is more thought be given to communicating a long-term plan for a sustainable rate of growth, knowing that more investments like this are probably going to be needed in the future. I've exceeded my time. I would be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Any questions? Go ahead. Councilman Bowers.
I just had a couple of quick questions.
Yes.
So you were in Texas when Uri happened, when
Yes,
it
sir.
all came to.
Yeah.
So this investment is really in an effort to prevent that from happening in our community.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that experience was like? I mean, I know we read about it on the news, right? Power was out, but
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what that experience was like and what that threat could be to Nebraska.
Yeah, so I think I need to start my answer, Councilmember Bowers, with the, sharing for our family, we were pretty fortunate. We lived very close in proximity to one of the major hospital systems in the North Austin area. So we did have to go on a boil notice, but we never lost electric power long term. We had a couple short outages. However, there were my chamber members and other residents in our community that were out of power for a week and had to go on boil notices because this is Texas and not used to real winters like we get up here in the Great White North. I'm sorry?
What's boil notice?
A boil notice is when, oh boy, this is a question for your systems folks. They could not maintain adequate pressure in the city water lines to deliver potable water to people. And so because of that, that is when you can have issues with stuff growing in the water, bacteria growing in the water. So you had to get the water out of the tap. Water would still flow out of the tap, but then you had to take it and boil it somewhere. Now, if you were on gas heat, no problem. If you're on electric heat and your home was out of electric capacity, and again, we had many businesses and residences in our community, just a couple miles down the road from my own house, where people were without electric for more than a week in a few cases. And we had stories about people that were going out to the wood pile to burn wood in their wood burning fireplace just to keep warm. It's not a great situation. And so not meeting these standards does come along with a concern for risk for people's lives or at least safety. And then when that happens, as I mentioned before, there were many major issues that were addressed by our first responders. And so police and fire had to respond to situations in the middle of a unheard of, very large ice storm. And that put those first responders, again, at risk. They were able to do it because they were up to the job. And we're very proud of the work that our folks here can do. They were very proud of the work that their folks in Central Texas could do at the time. But situations like that come along with some really deep costs. And I will tell you, there was a robust public dialogue, not terribly unlike this one, at that time saying, why weren't we ready for this? It snows every winter. How could this happen? And those are hard questions to answer for elected officials anytime. And so I respect and understand this is a difficult conversation before this body as it was before the LES board. But it comes with real potential downsides if we don't adjust to the SPP standards as proposed.
And there were hundreds of deaths with that in Texas, correct?
Council member, I'd have to check my numbers on that.
But yeah. And then you also mentioned one thing that I just want to, gas turbine is a lower cost versus like another energy source. So if it is about protecting taxpayers, that is the more cost-effective option at this point in time.
That is our assessment. That's our understanding from LES. We did ask the question, why not add a different kind of energy at this time? Their recommendation is it's the, I think to use the vernacular of our professionals over here, it's on-demand energy. You got to flip the switch. And so just because we're adding 100 megawatts of potential or nameplate capacity to the Lincoln system, does not mean we will necessarily use it. It is there if and when our other resources, for whatever reason, are offline temporarily, for whatever reason those come offline.
Gotcha. So it's dispatchable. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any
Other
other questions?
questions?
Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to testify on this? If so, please come forward.
Roy Helm. I identify with the pronouns of he and him. I reside at 2750 South 13th Street, which is on Otoe, Missouri land. I find myself very torn over this issue because I appreciate that we need to be proactive and we need to be prepared. There's a lot of serious consequences, as we've heard, but I don't think we can pass by thinking about the environmental impacts of natural gas provided energy, electricity. So it's probably at a higher cost to pursue those avenues, I don't think we can get around the issue of no matter what we do, it's going to impact people economically. If we don't do anything, there could be penalties, and there could be power shortages, power outages, and that would be detrimental to folks. So I don't enjoy the prospects of having more fossil fuel generated electricity, but I can also appreciate the quandary that we're in at this moment. We need to be prepared. We need to be thinking forward, but we also need to be thinking about the future and the environment. So I don't envy your task on making this decision. I just hope that whatever the decision is that we are prepared as a community. And I speak more broadly than of Lincoln, because part of what we're in is a consortium of sorts of people providing energy to other communities. So what we do here does have impact on other locations and other communities. So it is incumbent upon us to help out where we can. So I don't know if that's of any help, but I just felt like I needed to say something about this. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Rob. Please feel free to come forward.
Hello, Council.
Welcome.
So I'm going to be quite off topic because I'm kind of selfish right now. I want to see more soccer representatives. I mean, parks, because right now the U.S. is hosting the World Cup, and I want to see
right now we're talking about the LES, the Lincoln Electric System. There'll be some time later on in the meeting to talk about any issues that aren't on the agenda. So if you want to hang tight for just a little bit, you can come back up and talk about any issue you'd like.
All right.
Is that fair?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else like to testify on the LES? Please come forward. Anyone? Want to make sure we have plenty of time here for that. I will say we do have additional opportunity to testify on June 23rd based on the motion, correct? Only if it happens.
Only if
okay.
that motion happens.
Only
We'll
if
make
that motion happens. Okay.
There.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and move forward with the voting session. Oh, excuse me, rebuttal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be brief. So I wanted to just respond to a couple of things. Obviously, really appreciate the insights and the passion shared by our community members here. So I'll just answer a couple of, or respond to a couple of really quick things. First thing is with respect to the penalty, the cone penalty. Our estimates have that at about $1 million per 10 megawatts per year, right? So if you sort of do that out over 20 years, it's more than what we're sort of asking for, what we think what we intend to spend on this. And that cone penalty, by the way, is not fixed for 20 years, right? Depending on the rising cost of assets, it escalates year over year. So I wanted to share that. The second thing, I just wanted to point out, and we really appreciate the engagement with Mr. Winston and his community of advocates. And just to point out the scenario work, he showed one scenario of several that we have shared in our broad conversation with our board around what the possibilities might look like trying to navigate toward the 2040 goal. That is not a decision that's been made, nor is it a decision that's before the council. And quite frankly, this proposal that we have in front of you works in a whole wide variety of scenarios. That's one of the reasons why it's the option we've picked to bring before you. The final thing I'll just say, and Councilmember Bowers, I did a really quick lookup. I think the Texas Department of Health Services estimated 246 deaths from Uri. As I said, we are, and I am personally very passionate about doing what we can to protect our vulnerable communities. What we know in these reliability crises is that our low income, our vulnerable community members bear a disproportionate impact. right? So when we talk about reliability and we talk about resiliency of the system, it's really important to remember that that is part of the duty to protect those members of our society, because if and when these events happen, they're the ones who tend to get collateralized the most. And so when we say that we take reliability and affordability seriously, that's some of what we're thinking about. Any further questions from me before I? Thank you.
I think I have just one question. So when we talk about dispatchable, energy for this is the most cost-effective option for ratepayers. And so to meet the, to avoid the penalty that is not set by LES, but is set by another authority that we have to abide by, this is the most cost-effective option. And if we chose another path, then that would actually probably be a higher rate increase.
Yes, and again, the material we shared during the pre-council session, all of the different scenarios we've gone over with our board sort of demonstrated that. And we took a lot of time to do a lot of homework on this to make sure that we thought we could bring something forward that we felt was pretty compelling as the least cost option.
Perfect. I appreciate you sharing all that, and it really is a nuanced conversation, right? It's, the impact of low, income folks, and then also in a disaster like what happened in Texas, and priorities. So I really appreciate your engagement and having what's a nuanced conversation about this. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, Madam Clerk, we'll go ahead and move forward to voting.
I'll call item 5A, resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue and refunding bonds, Eastmont Project Series 2025, in one or more series, and a principal amount not to exceed $43 million for the purpose of making a loan to Christian Retirement Homes, Inc., Eastmont, authorizing the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection with issuance of such bonds and improving related matters, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Beckius. Go ahead and call the roll.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Madam Clerk, before you read the next two items, I'd like to offer a verbal motion to delay, a verbal motion to delay the vote on FB and FC to June 30th, and have continued public hearing at that time. I think there has been a lot of people interested.
Second.
Just point of inquiry, is that June 30 or June 23?
Oh, June 23. Thank you, June 23.
So motion's been made, seconded by Beckius to amend.
Yeah, I think that as folks have noted this afternoon, that there was a great desire to speak on this topic, and there was some consternation that there wasn't enough time. And so I want to make certain that the public understands that even though there have been a number of places where they could speak on this item, that we can extend the public hearing on this item until the 23rd of June, if my counselors agree.
Any other discussions on that motion, Councilman Schob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilwoman Washington, I appreciate your motion. And we're saying I'm a little concerned about the order in which we did this. We didn't. You're making a motion, so it's going to be our only motion on the table.
No, this is a motion to yes. This would amend this motion. These two things.
Yeah. So you're making one motion.
One motion for 5B, 24R-251 and 24R-252. I would like us to delay the vote until the 23rd and continue to hold public hearing on that date on these two items.
I understand. I personally would like to do them separately and one on each one, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Would legal counsel, can you help me understand?
I might have been trying for greater efficiency. Excuse me.
One of them.
I think you are asking, should we take them one at a time? And are you talking about the different items or the request to delay the vote with continued public hearing on item, what is it, 5B, and vote on that and then vote on 5C?
That's my concern. While I do wish to have continued public hearing, but on both of these items? Do we need to, are we delaying vote on both of these items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And does one motion cover both items, or do we need to vote separately on them?
I think we'll have Sony read the item into the record.
Yeah.
First
item,
one,
and then
5B, make a motion, vote on that, then we can have her read 5C, make the same motion and vote on that. That way the record's clear.
Ben, you've got
Okay.
that advice. I will withhold my motion and then offer it twice.
Okay, we'll have Sony read it in.
Item 5B is adopting Lincoln Electric System revised annual budget for 2025 to become effective July 1st of 2025, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made, seconded by Weber.
Okay, now I would like to formally request that we delay the vote until June 23rd with continued public hearing.
Second.
Motions for amendments been made and seconded by Weber.
Thank you.
You've already had discussion, I guess, but.
Wait, yeah.
Any
Any
additional-
additional discussion on that? We can go ahead and call the roll then.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, item 5C is adopting Lincoln Electric System revised rate schedules to become effective July 1st of 2025, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made, seconded by Weber.
All right, now I'm going to offer the same motion to delay the vote until June 23rd with continued public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Weber. Go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we can go ahead and move forward.
We'll move on to Section 6, Public Hearing Ordinances, Second Reading and Related Resolutions. I'll read Item 6A, Comprehensive Plan Conformance 25002, declaring approximately .69 acres of city-owned property generally located at the northeast corner of Northwest Roadhouse Drive and West O Street as surplus.
All right. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
6A.
Michelle Backemeyer, Urban Development Department. What I have before you is a piece of property the city would like to sell, and with that process, we need to have it declared surplus first. This formerly was a recycling site that the LTU department no longer uses or needs, so they asked us to go ahead and start the surplus process to get this sold. We've contacted the West O Business Association. They don't have any problems with us selling the property, and that's it, I guess.
All right, any questions? Thank you. Let's see, I'm all confused today. Public. Yeah, comments from the, all right. Would anyone else from the public like to comment on this? Item 6A. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on down the agenda. 6B.
I'll call items 6B and C together. Item 6B and C is annexation 25003, application of Southview Inc. to annex approximately 15.27 acres of property generally located at South 79th Street and Augustine Avenue. And the related change of zone 25010, application of Southview Inc. to change the zoning designation from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District for approximately 15.27 acres on property generally located at South 79th Street and Augustine Ave.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Mike Eckert with Civil Design Group, here today on behalf of Southview Inc. This is a fairly standard annexation of some of our land down in the 82nd and Rokeby Road area. Just continued expansion of that development that we're bringing into the city with some more single-family lots. So we just ask for your approval on that today.
Any questions from council? Councilman Show.
Thank you. I'll make sure I heard you clearly, Mr. Eckert. Annexation for more single-family lots, right? As in building housing?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought you said.
There is still a market for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Excuse me. Anyone from the public like to comment on that? Okay, moving forward, 6D.
Item 6D is change of zone 25007, application of District 33 LLC to change the zoning designation of approximately 12.78 acres from B3 Commercial District, R2 Residential District, and O2 Office District to B3 Commercial District PUD, R2 Residential District PUD, and O2 Office District PUD on property generally located at South 33rd Street and A Street.
Welcome, Terry.
Oh, cute. I'm going to try and make this relatively quick. I have a flight at 7. So I know but obviously trying to stick around as long as I can to answer questions.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a pretty significant milestone in what we've been trying to achieve in the last almost 20 months. So being here tonight is just another opportunity to share in this and get some input, but mostly, hopefully, approval. So I'm going to read this. I do want to thank the City Planning Department staff that provided guidance in navigating the process, and of course, Scott Spiker with Clark Anderson, who also provided time and expertise to help us get to this point. I think there was the background on this is when my wife and I purchased the property right here. So we own this and this property as well. You know, if you would have told me I'd be standing here today doing this, there was no real vision at that time except that we loved the area. And now that we have the opportunity to do this through constant one-on-one conversations with local folks and the community and engagement with the business owners there as well, really is kind of baked into what you see here. So it's really exciting to be at this point. It is a organic process that we went through. Again, my wife and I are not land developers with a lot of backing. This is just really a community of folks looking for an opportunity to revitalize and have that tool to do so. So this, as we've learned, is one of those key mechanisms to do so. So through different one-on-one chats and our open house at Randolph Elementary, all included some public input for those that were involved and potentially impacted. But again, this is really a goal to provide a walkable, livable, more food, entertainment options into an area that I think really is hungry for it. So with that.
Great. Questions, Council? Go ahead.
Not a question,
Yeah.
but a thank you.
Thank you.
Since work, I can't remember a citizen-led work group that came in and said, we want to revitalize a PUD over a B3 zoning district in the city of Lincoln. I don't think I've seen it since 2017 or so. Thank you. This is the work, citizen-led work, that is needed in order, I think, in our B1 and B3 zoning districts to rethink what it looks like to have business associated so closely with corresponding neighborhoods, and how we rethink what that looks like in our city and make sure that whatever it is, it's the right fit for that particular area of town and in particular our city as well. I don't think that you necessarily properly understand how extraordinary this work is that you all have been leading. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you. It's engaged citizens such as yourself that really will start to make a change in the city of Lincoln and start to build the neighborhoods that we really want to see and start defining how those neighborhoods interact with commercial spaces. So thank you. I'm excited about this ferry.
Right. Well, thank you. Trust me, 20 plus months of this has certainly provided light on the effort it takes. So thank you, though. Appreciate that.
Other questions? Sandra?
Thank you for bringing this proposal forward. I know this is an area that had a lot of interest. Small businesses have been wanting to do stuff here. I do have a couple of questions, though, and I appreciate, thank you for your willingness to host a public meeting with your neighbors and ask them to come in and speak with you. All right, so you have 6 planning areas. The map that you showed us just a moment ago is the clearest map I've seen that outlines and labels the 6 planning areas. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the 45-foot height waiver you've asked in planning unit number 4?
Yes, I could, as I will defer to my expertise, a team of expertise to provide.
Yeah, because I know that the 35-foot was considered, and in parts of this PUD, they are still in existence. But I am curious about in planning area or unit 4.
Sure. David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. I have Steve Dush, also from the Planning Department here. He worked directly on this plan with the applicant, so I'm going to let him answer detailed questions, and then we'll have a little bit of information just to share with you to make sure we're all on the same page as we go through the public hearing.
Yeah, and I'm cognizant of what you said when you came up here initially about you're trying to get someplace else. All right.
Again, Steve Dush with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. So in that planning area 4, so that area, if maybe I should just pull up the graphic to kind of give you a context, because there was a lot of discussion with respect to what that looked like.
The first graphic was the most clear graphic that I've
Right.
Yeah.
Let's use that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this planning area, so this is actually the B3 to the B3 PUD, and that existing zoning district allows for heights for certain multifamily to be even higher than 45. So the restriction placed upon that planning area was to make sure that the context relative to some of those adjacent zone districts and properties was a sort of transition in terms of a height. In all these other districts that are adjacent to it, the maximum height is 35 feet. And so there's a sort of natural transition to go, and step up in that intensity. But there was, through that public input process, a concerted effort to make sure that that transition to any of those residences was upheld. And so if there was a multifamily development that was brought forward within that area, that height wasn't so sort of incompatible with that 35-foot height limit that it could be adjacent to. So that 45-foot was placed to ensure that those uses wouldn't sort of have such a stark contrast to the residential adjacent to it.
And when you have, so if I'm looking on the south side of A Street and east of 33rd, planning area 4 does abut some R2 area. And so when you've got the 45, do you have a corresponding increasing setback from the side lot?
There is a setback that does sort of increase.
Okay.
And that coupled with the sort of 35, 45 foot height difference, just kind of allows for that natural transition into this sort of, neighborhood commercial core.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions, council?
I might just take a moment just to clarify not clarify, but provide a little bit more information, just so that the record shows that upon your recommendation for action next week, or 2 weeks from now, I should say, there will be a motion to amend that really just clarifies one of the uses in this. And then there's also, within the language of this, there's a rescinding language of an older zoning agreement for one of the office buildings that really just clarifies that if the PUD were to be approved, the PUD would govern that now instead of the older agreement, just so that it's on the record that those actions would be requested in 2 weeks as well.
Sure. And Director Carey, ownership of those parcels are in agreement with those?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this? Please come forward now. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Lori Rezach, and I am the owner of Moran's Liquor Works. Some of you may remember I was here back in November, I believe, December-ish, somewhere around there. 3400 A Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm going to keep this quick just because I know we're on a time crunch. I'm here to ask for your support of the proposed planned unit development, which would allow us to reopen our growler room, a space that once brought real energy and connection to our corner of the neighborhood. When we purchased Moran's back in November, we were excited to carry on its legacy and looked forward to operating the growler room as a gathering place for the community. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do so for long. Shortly after we opened, we learned that due to an existing zoning restriction related to residential proximity, we could no longer offer the on-site consumption that had been offered under previous ownership. It limited us to tastings, as I'm sure some of you may remember, which are 5 1-ounce pours to any single individual within a 24-hour period. We decided to close the room until we could come up with a solution. This change didn't just impact our business, it was felt by the neighborhood. Many residents told us how much they valued having a local space to relax, to enjoy craft beer in a safe, well-managed environment, so that loss was deeply felt. The proposed PUD would give us the ability to restore that space, not as a bar, but as a neighborhood hub. We envisioned a responsible, welcoming growler room that highlights local breweries, bringing people together and contributes positively to the neighborhood's character and economy. We've always taken great pride in running a safe, compliant business. We take our licensing seriously, obviously, by closing the growler room. Our staff is trained, our policies are strict, and our commitment to the community is unwavering. This isn't just about reopening a room, it's about restoring a small piece of what makes neighborhoods feel like home. I believe this PUD gives us the path to do that thoughtfully, respectfully, and in line with the city's vision for responsible mixed-use development. Thank you for your time and consideration. I hope you'll support this request and help us bring back a community space that so many neighbors have asked to see return. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, council? Seeing none.
No question, just a comment. You really took the creative way out on this one. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh,
Thank you so much.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to testify on this issue? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward.
Okay. Section 7 is our ordinance's third reading and related resolutions. Item 7A is amending Chapter 3.30 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to restaurant occupation tax to update and clarify definitions, expand enforcement, collection, and notification procedures, and ensure consistent permitting reporting, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Excuse me, there was a correction to that. It was introduced by Beckius, not Bowers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So moved.
I'll say second. You need a second? Can we just flip-flop those names and move forward?
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? None? Go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7B is amending the pay schedule for employee group whose classification is assigned to the pay range which is prefixed by the letter M by changing the pay range for Class 3161 Emergency Communications Head from M05 to M07, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Weber. Any discussion? Councilman.
Yeah, just real briefly about this item and the next item. I want to, thank the members of LCEA for, reaching out to make sure that the city was able to have a robust, conversation, not just about the manager of the Emergency Communication Center, but also the dispatchers. They do really critical work for our city, often dealing with life-threatening situations and consequences. And so I think that this item and the next item are a step in the right direction to showing that we are investing and ready to support all of our employees at the Emergency Communication Center. And there is still clearly work to be done. And I think that those conversations can be productive. Again, just want to thank the members of that organization, as well as Director McIntyre and Chief Morrow, for really allowing for a collaborative conversation about what our city needs.
Any other comments? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7C is amending the pay schedule for employee group whose classification is assigned to the pay range, which is prefixed by the letter C, by changing the pay range for Class 3158 Public Safety Dispatcher from C19 to C20, 3159 Senior Public Safety Dispatcher from C25 to C28, and 3160 Public Safety Dispatcher Supervisor from C31 to C32. Introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Weber. Any discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7D is amending the pay schedule for employee group whose classification is assigned to the pay range, which is prefixed by the letter A, by changing 3162 Emergency Communications Operations Manager from A13 to A14. Introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Weber, we'll give it to. Any discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7E is an ordinance of the City of Lincoln, Nebraska, authorizing and approving an equipment lease purchase agreement with Cognate Leeson and Financing, Inc. for grounds maintenance equipment in the amount of $787,018.63 and related matters. Introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Weber. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay. That concludes Section 7. Section 8 is resolutions first readings, items 8A through 8D. Section 9 is ordinances first reading and related resolutions, item 9A and 9B. Section 10 is our pending list date certain, item 10A. And Section 11 is our pending list, items 11A through 11C.
All right, tonight is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at the open microphone session. Individuals are allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak, regardless of the number of topics. For the month of June, open microphone sessions will be held on June 9th, tonight, and June 30th, 2025. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Please come forward now.
All right. Hi, my name is Amy. I'm not sharing my address, and I'm sure you can all guess why I'm here today. I, as usual, am here regarding Palestine and Gaza. We talk a lot about general dynamics, and I'll be very upfront. I do not quite know what power the council has. I would love to talk one-on-one with some of you. I'll try and send an email if I remember. Because I would like to know. I would like to know what more worthwhile things I can do here, other than what I'm doing. Anyway, I was looking through General Dynamics' site, and I found this, and I found it very interesting. I just would like to put it up here. This is their corporate responsibility. According to their corporate responsibility, they are working to reduce their environmental impact, protect human rights, and then promote an inclusive workforce. So I just want to highlight that. But I want to know whose human rights are they protecting exactly? I understand how Israel is saying that it is defense, and maybe after the 7th that was valid, but it's lost its validity now. I don't know about anybody else, but a lot of these pictures that I'm seeing, a lot of the things I'm seeing with my own eyes, they're not self-defense. You know, I am seeing bodies of dead children. I am seeing people being blown up. I am seeing attacks on people who should never be attacked. Children. I don't know what anyone who's a parent cares about more other than their children. But I found all of these while I was sitting here waiting for public comment. So Israel strike kills dozens sheltering in Gaza school. That's from the BBC. Gaza's youngest influencer, 11, is killed in Israel strikes. This one is hard. This is a photojournalist, a prominent photojournalist who was making a film about the conflict in Gaza. She was killed, as well as 10 members of her family, the day after the Cannes Film Festival told her that they would be showing her film on the topic. And I don't know how you quite get more targeted than something like that. I think there should be a lot of concern over where this is shifted to. Israel military kills 4 near aid distribution site in South Gaza, an aid distribution site run and backed by Israel, their own distribution site. 4 individuals were killed. I don't understand what exactly we're doing here, and this is what General Dynamics is supporting. And so this is less public comment in hopes that you'll put out a resolution or do something. I need to learn more. I'm trying to do some research and get more involved. They always say in school, get involved at the city level, get involved at the small levels of government. So that's what I'm here doing. That's what's important to me. This is important to me. I care about human rights, and I think those rights apply to everybody. I can't imagine what it's like to not know if my home is going to be there one day, to go home and find rubble, or to find that my children inside were burned alive if they didn't die from the bomb. There's a video. I couldn't find it, and I wanted to, but it sticks with me. It's a young boy in his home. He's maybe 7 years old, and the video is his final moments, and all you see is him doing a video, and then an explosion, and a bang. That boy did not survive, and I don't care what anyone says. I would bet the 1 year's salary that I quoted earlier that boy was not a member of Hamas. So Israel's lost sight of what defense is. They don't seem to care about the hostages, or they'd be doing something different. And I do think there's something that the council can consider when it comes to General Dynamics and future requests that they make for any sort of public funding. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Please come forward now.
My name is Anastasia Finner. I'm going to waive my address for my personal safety. So on Monday, June 9th, today, occupation forces attacked the Freedom Flotilla and took its entire crew hostage. It is our collective responsibility to take urgent action and demand their safe and immediate release. Please contact your Ministry of Foreign Affairs and demand their release. The French government has a responsibility to protect their citizens, Baptiste Andre, Omar, Pascal, Raviv, Rima, and Yanis from Israel and NATO intercepting of any kind while they sail to Gaza. The Spanish government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, Sergio Toribio, from Israeli or NATO interception of any kind. The German government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, Yasmin Akar, from Israel and NATO. The Brazilian government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, Thiago Avila, and the Swedish government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, Greta Thunberg, and the Turkish government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, The Dutch government has a responsibility to protect their citizen, Marco, as well. What happened was there was a freedom flotilla that had left around the beginning of Pride Month. Happy Pride to everyone except everyone here. And they were intercepted today. There has been no contact with them. These were people that were trying to bring food and medicine to a place that has been under siege for months. This that I have here is a stack of the dead. People that have been murdered by us, by Israel. Mike was an 8-year-old who loved doing her hair and going to school. She was killed in her sleep by an Israeli airstrike. I wonder if maybe that airstrike also came from Lincoln. There's a non-zero chance that this little girl was murdered by a bomb that passed through our citizens' hands, that this body has paid for. The private-public partnership, you tout it all the time. And yet here are all of these beautiful people that are just gone because of people like you, personally, because you are doing nothing. This is what, not even, this person was killed in 2023, and this person, these people were killed in 2024. How many of these people were still alive when I was begging you to do something? I wonder how many of these people were still alive when I had sat up here asking you, begging that we stop sending public dollars to build bombs. None of you have showed up to anything. No one came to UNL, to speak on the behalf of students at the student government when they were begging the university to stop funding, General Dynamics, Caterpillar, Boeing, that kill people, kids. The children, Lama and Hassan, were killed in an Israeli airstrike along with their mother, Rewa, on March 3rd, 2024. The airstrike on Rafah killed over 17 people in an instant. That sounds like it could have been a bomb that came from Lincoln, Nebraska, because we make giant 2,000-pound bombs that create massive craters in the earth. Are you seeing the humanity? Look at little Mila. What about these people? Did they deserve power or food or water? Do these folks look like any of our neighbors? Do these people look like people that deserve to die? Do they? And yet you can't even say it yourselves. You can't so much as tweet that these frickin' people didn't. Saba and Sama's father lovingly called them his heartbeat. They were killed in an Israeli airstrike on their home along with their mother. I wonder if that bomb could have come from Lincoln, Nebraska. I wonder how many of these people were murdered because of us, specifically because of us. I've been coming here for more than a year, and here we are. So many people that could have been saved had any of you spoken out.
That's the
and done
5-minute
anything.
limit.
I'm literally getting my stuff to go away. You can just fucking deal, Justin. You weren't even here for most of the city council meetings. It's amazing that you were even like.
Point of order, you're over your time limit. Thank you.
That's so cute. I don't really.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Please come forward now. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Timothy Sowell, and kind of here for selfish reasons. Can you?
Mr. Sabo, I did not hear your name.
Timothy Sowell.
Could you speak up just so that we could hear you, please?
My name is Timothy Sowell.
There we go.
You.
And I just want to see more soccer courts around Lincoln, Nebraska, especially for the summer. I want to spend some time outside and with my friends because I work and soccer is like the main way that I recharge and get ready for the next work day. So if you could like maybe add some of these parks, some of these courts at Peter Pan Park, because right now there's like 2 basketball courts in Peter Pan Park, and there's not much places where I can go to play soccer. So if you can add something like this, that would be much appreciated. That's it.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public like to testify? Please come on down, or make comment, excuse me.
Hi, once again, my name is Tristan Paris. I reside at 7120 South 30th Place, Lincoln, Nebraska. I do actually have some print-offs for you guys. Who do I pass this to? Who's this? Yep. Nope.
Thank you, Chris.
We'll make sure this is in order right here. I'll give you guys a moment just to pass that around.
Go ahead.
All right. So before I begin, I would like to apologize in advance if I do become a bit emotional. Speaking in an official setting such as this is not something that I am used to, so please do forgive me if I do not maintain a professional demeanor during my speech today. But first, I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to come before you today alongside any community member who wish to share the concerns about our city's management. It's remarkable to have a direct line of communication with those responsible for governing our city. As I understand it, your duties include approving allocation of funds in our community, if I'm not mistaken. This actually leads me to the main point of my message here today before you guys. I'm here to question the recent decisions regarding which roads are being chosen to be completely redone. Specifically, I want to ask, why are we completely overhauling roads that could last another 10 or 5 to 10 years with minimal repairs, especially when there are other roads that would benefit more from these funds? To illustrate my point, I do have some photos for you to review. The first right here, let me go ahead and open this. Is that going up on the screen? Yep. Okay. I'm going to full screen that way you guys can see that better. This is Pine Lake right here. It is slated for a complete overhaul. While I do recognize that there is a few spots, such as you see right here, the median that could use some attention, I believe that only minor repairs are necessary for that. Same goes for a handful of small potholes, especially when compared to the dire condition of other roads that I will mention here shortly. Next, you will see photos of the proverbial straw that broke this camel's back. And that is, this photos show 48th and Highway 2 looking towards 56th. And then vice versa, show that this is a fairly decent road right here. Oh, let's go back. Fairly decent road. Where'd that go? And as a trucker, I do travel a lot across this country, and I can say with a fair amount of confidence that it is in good condition. I believe that this road, along with others like Pine Lake, should not be prioritized for a complete overhaul at this time. Instead, we should focus on roads that are in desperate need of repair, which brings me to another road I'm sure all of you are familiar with. That is 48th, and that is located directly in front of one of our most important hospitals, Bryant East. This road has been like this for at least 5, if not 10 years. And yet it continues to be overlooked in favor of streets that could last nearly a decade with minimal maintenance before ever coming close to the current state of this road. Next image right here shows 48th and Old Cheney. This is just a few blocks from that section on Highway 2 that I showed you that is set for resurfacing. This goes all the way up to Abbott Street right here. And I'm just showing This is just a few blocks from there. It could use those funds a lot more. I am running really tight on time, so I'm going to go through this really quick here. Woods, 27th, O'Reilly Drive, 27th, 19th and A, 13th and G, 12th and G, 11th and G, 10th and O, X Street on Cotner, and honestly, I don't know. With these examples showcased, I want to ask why the roads, like the ones I mentioned, have been allowed to fall into such a state of neglect, while other roads that are not anywhere near as bad have gotten our taxpayer money. Is it a case of bias based on geography, or is it simply that you don't travel down these roads so the conditions haven't caught your attention? Honestly, I don't know how the decisions are made regarding which roads get selected for repair. What I do know is that I'm not alone in my frustrations over how our hard-earned, easily wasted taxpayer dollars are being spent. I see the outrage expressed online whenever a new, rather asinine project is announced. I acknowledge that complaining about a problem without offering a solution is unproductive. I apologize. I have run over my time. I am trying to get through this, if that is fine. I have one paragraph
You're
left.
at your limit. That's what we have available here,
Okay.
too. But did you have a wrap-up type of statement here, too?
Yes,
Right
yes.
there, right?
That's this last paragraph. That's wrap-up statement, if that is fine. With all that being said, I do hope that you do better due diligence in your selection of what you spend our taxpayer money on in the future, and I hope you will reassess the criteria for the road repairs, make sure they evaluate whether the road in question is truly worse than any other road in your jurisdiction before approving any project. And I finally would like to stress that any member of the public who may hear this, please take more of an active role in your local politics to try and prevent wasteful spending such as the $3.5 million that is about to be wasted redoing Highway 2 while other roads could use those funds.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to comment? Welcome, Peter.
Good evening. My name's Peter Catt. It's been a long day for you today. Fortunately, I can't go over 5 minutes. I'm here to talk to you about the Central Library, which I've referred to as the downtown library for a long time. This came out about 2 weeks ago. I got it. I was shocked, disappointed, and concerned. Why? We've talked about a downtown library, call it Central Library if you want, for nearly 30 years. Every time we've talked about it, what has it included? Public bond financing and a public vote. And I get down here, it says no general obligation bond required. Really? We're going to go dig around in couch cushions and have a background bond. I think that's fundamentally wrong. I think this project deserves a public vote. And what I've been told, I went to the meeting last week at the library, was it needs 4 of you to say we need a public vote. So I'm here to start getting 4 votes from you guys to say we're going to vote on this publicly. Because at this point, why should I waste any of my time learning about what they want to do about the library? Because what I say doesn't matter. So I'm asking, let's vote on this publicly, because I think it's an important enough project that we should have community support. And I'm glad I was here for the earlier part with the people with LES. Transparency, the impact on the average taxpayers, really? Where are we going to spend our money? How are we going to prioritize public funds, streets? There's a whole lot of important issues that I think the public should weigh in on this library. And I think that it deserves a public bond and a public vote. I don't even know how it came from Pershing, which was bad, to the current proposal, which I think has a reasonable chance to pass. Looks pretty good repurposeful use, but we need to vote on it. I won't even take all my 5 minutes. Thanks for listening to me. If anybody wants to talk about it more, I've sent emails, you have my phone numbers. I'd love to talk to you about it. I think it's an important project that the public deserves to weigh in on. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your service. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks for coming down. Is there anyone else that would like to address council at this time?
Hello, I'm Roy Helm. I identify with the pronouns of he and him. I reside at 2750 South 13th Street, which is Oto, Missouri land. I just want to express some, I don't know if it's dismay or confusion. It seems like everywhere we drive in town, there is something closed, some street, some construction project, and you know, whether I think they're valid or not, I do see it as a true sign of progress and commitment to the infrastructure. I can't speak to whether there are other areas that may deserve it more, but it is good to see that we are seeing improvements. We have some streets that are long overdue. But you know, another, I guess, thing that I'm thankful about is that there's going to be some consternation caused by the lead-free Lincoln project that's going to be happening in the neighborhood that I live in, and that directly affects me. And I think that's another strong commitment by the city to try and make sure that we have safe drinking water. And this is not based on demographics or biases. It's based on age of neighborhoods, which is generally where the lower income people live these days. So I think it's a positive step and shows that there is commitment by the city and by the leadership to make sure that we have some strong foundation of services. And you know, I've said this before, I am very fond of water. Water is life, and we all need a safe source of drinking water. And so I do appreciate what's happening with that system, and I just wanted to make sure that you know, I said thank you. So have a good evening, and thank you for all the work that you do.
That's right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment tonight?
Chair Carlson, seeing no one, I move adjournment.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I could.
That's